somewhere in your home, right now, there is money flowing to a family you have never heard of. The bourbon on the shelf, the balm in your grandmother's drawer, the biscuits in the tin, even the water coming out of the tap. Behind each one is an Asian family worth billions. Families that have stayed invisible for 100 years on purpose. Together, the 10 families in this video control around $56 billion. They own casinos in Las Vegas, skyscrapers in Manhattan, islands in the Maldives, and the most famous whiskey in Japan. And yet you could walk past every single one of them on the street and never know it. Here's the thing. Staying unknown is not an accident. For these families, it is a strategy, one that has kept their empires alive through wars, revolutions, and market crashes that wiped out louder names. This is Asian Dynasty. Today, we are counting down 10 billionaire families you never knew existed. From a dynasty that carved a casino kingdom out of a jungle mountain to a family that has quietly owned your favorite drink for more than a century. And the higher we climb, the bigger the empires get, and the more invisible the families become. Let's start counting. Number 10. In 1965, a Chinese immigrant stood at the foot of an untouched mountain near Kuala Lumpur and told everyone he was going to build a resort on top of it. They said he was crazy. There was no road, no water, no power, just jungle. His name was Lim Goh Tong, and for 4 years his crews carved a road up the mountain, meter by meter. Then came the masterstroke. In April 1969, he applied for a casino license, and the government reportedly approved it within hours. It became the only casino license in Malaysia. That mountain is now Genting Highlands, home to one of the largest hotels on Earth with more than 7,000 rooms. Today, his son Lim Goh Tong runs a global empire, resorts world casinos in Singapore, New York, and a $4 billion property on the Las Vegas Strip. The family fortune sits around $1.8 billion. One mountain, one license, one family that turned a place nobody wanted into a kingdom that millions visit every year. And the next family on this list started with even less. A teenager on a bicycle. Number 9. In 1939, a 13-year-old boy in Cebu lost his father to typhoid. The family fortune vanished almost overnight, so the boy loaded a bicycle with soap, candles, and thread and started pedaling. 5 in the morning, town to town, earning about 20 pesos a day. His name was John Gokongwei. By 17, he was sailing a small wooden boat through open sea for weeks at a time to trade goods in Manila. In 1954, he started a little corn products company. That company became Universal Robina, the snack empire half of Asia grew up on. In the 90s, he launched Cebu Pacific, the budget airline that put flying within reach of ordinary Filipinos. When John died in 2019, he left his 6 children in empire spanning food, airlines, banking, and property, held together by JG Summit. Today, the family is worth around $1.8 billion. Here is the part that stays with you. The man who built it flew economy and lived simply his whole life. Wealth in this family never stopped looking like work, but wealth can also look like water. Ask the next family. They own the kind that comes out of your tap. Number 8. If you live in the west of England, there is a good chance this Malaysian family owns the water you drank this morning. In 1955, a builder named Yeoh started a small construction firm in Kuala Lumpur. Today, that firm, YTL, owns Wessex Water, which supplies millions of British homes. It owns Power Suraya, one of Singapore's biggest power producers. It owns the Ritz-Carlton in Kuala Lumpur, and it is building Malaysia's first solar-powered data center, a $3 billion bet on the AI age. His son Francis Yeoh and 6 siblings run it all today, worth around $3.6 billion. Think about that. A family from Kuala Lumpur collects money every time a kettle boils in Bath, every time a light switches on in Singapore. That is what invisible ownership looks like. Infrastructure. You never see the landlord, but you pay them every single day. The next family learned the same trick, except they started with a bicycle shop. Number 7. Mukhtar Riady was 22 years old when he opened a bicycle shop in East Java. What he actually wanted, obsessively, was to run a bank. Everyone told him it was impossible. He had no money and no connections. By the 1960s, he was fixing broken banks in Jakarta, and he became so good at it that Indonesia's richest man handed him a struggling bank called Bank Central Asia. Riady helped turn it into one of the largest private banks in Asia. Then he built his own empire, the Lippo Group, malls, hospitals, real estate, and schools across Indonesia. Today, his sons James and Stephen run it, and the family fortune sits around $3.9 billion. Mukhtar is in his 90s now, and he still tells the same story. He was rejected, underestimated, and unknown. And the unknown part never changed. The name on the mall says Lippo. It does not say Riady. That is the pattern on this list. And we are only getting started, because the next name belongs to a family that once had the richest man on earth at its head, and you still don't know them. Number 6. In 1991, Forbes named the richest man in the world. It was not an American oil baron, it was not Bill Gates. It was a soft-spoken former economics professor from Tokyo named Taikichiro Mori, worth $15 billion at the peak of Japan's bubble. More than anyone alive, he had spent half his life teaching. Then, in his 50s, he walked away from the classroom, took over his family's small property business, and quietly bought up Tokyo, building by building, block by block. When he died in 1993, his son split the empire. One built Roppongi Hills. The other, Akira Mori, built Mori Trust, over 100 buildings including the Conrad Tokyo, and as of 2025, a piece of the Manhattan skyline. Akira's branch alone is worth around $4.5 billion today, and his daughter Miwako is taking over next. From richest man on earth to near total silence in one generation, that is not decline. In Japan, that is discipline, and we are now halfway up this list. And from here, every single family is worth more than $6 billion. Drop a comment and tell me which of these names you had actually heard before. Let's keep climbing. Number 5. This family has been rich for 290 years. Let that sink in. In 1736, a Parsi carpenter named Lovji Wadia won a contract to build ships in Bombay. His descendants built more than 350 of them, including warships for the Royal Navy and merchant ships for the East India Company. The wooden ships are long gone. The family never went anywhere. Today, the Wadia Group runs Britannia, the biscuit brand found in almost every Indian household on earth. That single business makes the Wadias, by some rankings, the richest biscuit family in the world. The group's chairman, Znosli Wadia, carries another astonishing piece of history. He is the grandson of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan. The family fortune is estimated at around $6.4 billion, 290 years. Empires rose and fell. The British came and left. India split in two. And through all of it, one family kept quietly compounding. The next family on our list built their empire in half that time and hosted one of the most famous meetings of the century. Number 4. In June 2018, the world's cameras pointed at one hotel in Singapore, the Capella on Sentosa Island, where Donald Trump shook hands with Kim Jong-un. Almost nobody asked who owned the building. The answer? 4 brothers you have never heard of. The Kwee brothers. Their father, Henry Kwee, moved from Indonesia to Singapore in 1958 and started buying land. His sons built Pontiac Land, the Millennia Towers in Singapore, the Ritz-Carlton and Conrad hotels there, private island resorts in the Maldives, and a 72-story tower in Manhattan rising above the Museum of Modern Art. The family is worth around $7.3 billion, and they are famously private. No interviews, no publicity. They let the buildings speak. In 2024, the brothers quietly handed the board to the 3rd generation. Think about the scale of that. A family that hosted history and still managed to stay out of the story. The next family did something even harder. They put their product in your medicine drawer. Number 3. There is a little red tin that sits in homes from Singapore to San Francisco. Tiger Balm. Sold in about 100 countries. Now, who owns it? A banking dynasty. In 1935, a trader named Wee Keng Chiang founded the United Chinese Bank in Singapore. His son, Wee Cho Yaw, spent 60 years turning it into UOB, one of the biggest banks in Southeast Asia. And along the way, the family's Hall Park Company became the keeper of Tiger Balm. Wee Cho Yaw died in 2024 at 95, still one of the most respected bankers in Asia. His son, Wee Ee Cheong, runs UOB today. The family fortune, around $7.8 billion. 3 generations, 1 bank, and a century of showing up quietly. In a region where fortunes explode and vanish, the Wees just compounded. Steady, boring, unstoppable. And if you think 100 years is impressive, the next family has been at it for 125. And they have probably carried you to school. Number 2. In 1900, a young man named Murugappa Chettiar left South India for Burma and opened a small money lending firm. For 40 years, it grew across Asia, until World War II. When Japanese forces invaded Burma, the family lost nearly everything and fled home to Madras. Most dynasties end there. The Murugappas started over. In 1949, they began building bicycles, BSA and Hercules, the bikes that carried generations of Indian children to school. Then sugar, then fertilizers, then finance. Today, the Murugappa Group is more than a century old, run from Chennai, now into its 5th generation, and the family is worth around $8.3 billion. Here's what makes them remarkable. In a country obsessed with billionaire weddings and private jets, the Murugappas are famous for exactly one thing: never showing off. No palaces in the headlines, just 125 years of quiet discipline, but even they are not the top of this list. Number 1 is a family whose product is probably within 100 meters of you right now. Number 1. In 1899, a 20-year-old named Shinjiro Torii opened a small wine shop in Osaka. His motto was Yate Minahare, roughly go for it and see. In 1923, everyone told him Japan could never make real whiskey. He built the Yamazaki distillery anyway, Japan's first. That company became Suntory. Say the family name though, Torii, and their cousins, the Sajis. Almost nobody outside Japan knows it, yet look at what they own. Yamazaki, one of the most awarded whiskeys on earth. Boss Coffee, in every Japanese vending machine. And since 2014, when Suntory paid $16 billion for Beam, Jim Beam, and Maker's Mark. That's right, one of the most iconic names in American bourbon answers to a family in Osaka. The family still controls nearly 90% of Suntory Holdings, a private empire built over 125 years. Chairman Nobutada Saji is worth around $10.5 billion, the fourth richest person in Japan. And in 2025, the founder's great-grandson, Nobuhiro Torii, became president. From a corner wine shop to your whiskey glass, 4 generations, 1 family, and you never even saw them. 10 families, around $56 billion, and 1 pattern you cannot unsee. None of them built their fortune to be seen. The Lims built a mountain, the Morris bought a skyline, the Torius filled your glass, but the families themselves stayed out of the picture. No reality shows, no tabloid feuds, no names on the buildings, because there are 2 kinds of wealth. One announces itself and attracts enemies, taxes, and trouble. The other stays quiet and gets handed intact to sons, daughters, and great-grandchildren. Every family on this list chose the quiet kind. That is why they have lasted a century, and maybe that is the real lesson hiding in this countdown. The loudest wealth in the world is usually the youngest, and often the shortest lived. The quiet kind compounds. It survives wars, crashes, invasions, and time itself. Real wealth is not the yacht you show off. It is the empire nobody can see, still growing in the dark, 100 years after everyone forgot the founder's name. So, which of these 10 families had you actually heard of before today? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to see how Asia's quiet dynasties actually live, watch our video on Asia's hidden billionaire mansions. Because with these families, the houses are even quieter than the names. See you there.